Good evening, and welcome to this community meeting we're hosting tonight. Thank you for joining us this evening. My name is Tad Kelly, Corporate Communications with the Western Pennsylvania District. Firstly, we'd like to express our gratitude to the Neshannock Township School District and the Neshannock High School in particular for allowing us to host this meeting in this beautiful school tonight. We especially thank Superintendent Dr. Mary S. Todora, Principal Luca Passarelli, and Teacher Tom Wixon for all the arrangements that were made available to us to host this meeting. We're going to begin momentarily with a presentation by Western Pennsylvania District Manager Charles McCready. But first, I'd like to go over some of the housekeeping and ground rules. I trust that at the sign-in table you did pick up a copy of the ground rules, and also that you signed in. We appreciate you doing that. If you need to use restrooms, they're out to the left of the auditorium entrance from where you came in. In the event that we need to evacuate this building, please exit orderly out either the rear if you're closest to the back door, and then out to the parking lot, the entrance you came in. If you're closer to the front of the auditorium, you'd want to go through these doors to my right, to your left. They go right out to the outside as well. Please place anything that rings or emits noise on mute or vibrate. If you wish to have a conversation either in person or on the phone, please step outside. We remind you that recognized media are the only ones permitted to make audio or video recordings of this portion of the meeting. Written notes will be taken for the record for comments during the public meeting segment. We would like to acknowledge and thank members of the United States Postal Inspection Service for attending this evening. I'd also like to introduce quickly those attending from the Western Pennsylvania District of the United States Postal Service. As I mentioned, our District Manager, Mr. Charles McCready, is here. Our Senior Plant Manager, Mr. Jeff Bergen, is here. Our Human Resources Manager, Mr. Bob Rutkowski, is here. The Newcastle Postmaster, Ms. Nancy Sabeto, is here. The Newcastle Plant Manager, Ms. Eileen Mills, is here. Our Marketing Manager, Ms. Jane Rankamp, as well, is here. Our Manager of Communications for the District, Coordinator, Mark Wall, is in the back there. Our Information Systems Manager, Mr. Bob Christie, is right here. And I'm Tad Kelly. We strongly ask that during the District Manager's presentation, you hold any and all comments until the public comment period that will follow. We're going to take a 5-minute break between the presentation you will see by the District Manager and the question and answer period. Again, following the presentation, we're going to welcome your questions and comments. We have a request that the mayor speak first, and then the council folks after him, and they'll arrange how that'll happen. And then please line up orderly to the microphone right here. We ask that you do not remove the microphone from the stand. You can swivel it if you need to. Again, this is not our equipment, so we want to leave it just as we were afforded it. Please be brief and to the point, as this meeting will conclude at 8 p.m., regardless of whether everyone desiring to speak publicly has had the opportunity to do so or not. Keep in mind, for those not having the opportunity to do so, as far as voicing a question or a comment here, you will have 15 days to submit a question using the questionnaire forms we have at the sign-in table, and you have the address on the bottom of that sheet. We ask you keep your comments or questions, again, to 2 minutes or less due to time constraints, and you keep them exclusively about the Newcastle area mail processing plant. That's what we're here to discuss tonight. Please help us keep the process moving promptly by refraining from reading prepared speeches and repeat trips to the microphone. We encourage you to be candid, and you are expected to be respectful and civil as all are present. Finally, following the public comment segment, or 8 p.m., whichever first, the meeting will end and we are all asked to exit. That's as long as we have this facility and we want to respect the school district's requests. There will not be any post-meeting interviews made available from our panel members. And on the last slide, and also on your handouts, you will find an address to send your comments should you choose to do that way. They need to be postmarked by December 30th. At this time, I'd like to introduce the Western Pennsylvania District, Mr. Charles McCready, our District Manager.
Oh, you got some of my papers there.
Take your part.
Okay. Good evening and welcome. I'd like to thank all of you for coming this evening and giving us the opportunity to tell you what's going to happen with the area mail processing project for the Newcastle plant. I'd like to extend a special welcome to the mayor, and to the president of the council, to the commissioner, and to the other politicians that came here to listen to our presentation. I'd also like to welcome the members of the union, Mr. Wigley I saw here, and any other people who are here representing the union. As you know, the Postal Service has recently announced that it intends to seek some significant changing in mail processing networks across the country. I will be giving you some of the background on these changes and why we believe they are necessary. I will also share the proposed changes for mail processing operations currently located at the Newcastle mail processing facility. I do have a lot to cover, and many of the questions that you may have may be addressed during this presentation. I ask that you hold your questions and comments until the presentation is finished. We are here tonight to hear from the community. Please focus questions and comments and concerns on service and cost and customer issues. Potential employee impacts are summarized during the presentation. However, labor issues are handled internally within the Postal Service with the appropriate personnel. The Postal Service is responding to a changing marketplace. The reality is that the volume of mail we process annually has declined by more than 43 billion pieces in the past 5 years, and we feel this will continue to decline. As a result, our mail processing network is now much larger than we can afford. Looking ahead, declining volume dictates that we make radical changes to our mail processing networks. And so this evening, I'm going to provide you with some information around two very important topics. First, that we intend to radically redesign our mail processing network in the next 2 years based on a 2 to 3 day standard for local delivery of first-class mail. Second, the initial results of an area mail processing study at the Newcastle facility. To illustrate the business case for change, let me start with this graph that's now up on screen. It shows that mail volume trends and projections through 2020. It shows our first-class mail product, which includes those traditional cards and letters that you put postage stamps on, and our standard mail, also known as advertising mail. 2006 was the high water mark. Since then, first-class mail has declined 20%. This is due to the electronic diversion and due to the economic slowdown. The sobering reality is that first-class mail volumes will not return. More and more people are using electronic means to communicate and to pay bills. Experts predict that a continued decline in the volume of first-class mail, which is the product that drives our network requirements and pays our bills, because it contributes the most to the bottom line of the Postal Service. An enduring part of our business is advertising mail, which we will expect to show some growth in the out years, but even significant growth and continued growth in package volume would not make up for the ongoing decline in first-class mail volume. This change in the makeup of mail from first-class to advertising mail, therefore, has significant ramifications for the Postal Service infrastructure for two major reasons. The volume declines mean we have less revenue to cover the cost of infrastructure, and we also have an excess capacity throughout our system. Put simply, to process less mail, we need fewer facilities. I'm going to mention the word capacity quite a bit. That relates to our ability to process the mail and the packages that go through our system. Our mail processing network footprint evolved over many years in response to volume fluctuations and to take advantage of improvements in technology. Between 1970 and 2006, our focus was on expanding to handle the current volume trends. From 1970 to 2006, we increased our use of automation to gain efficiencies. We built large new facilities to house advanced mail processing equipment. It was a period of growth and significant capital investment. We built facilities with the confidence that as the population and economy grew, mail volumes would also increase. Since 2006, the confidence in perpetual volume growth has in fact evaporated. Prior to 2006, our operational goal was to stay ahead of the growth curve, to ensure that we had the capacity to support these larger volumes. Now, our operational goal is to stay ahead of the cost curve, to ensure that we have just enough capacity to meet these lower volumes, and to operate at a lower cost that our revenues can in fact support. So now we're contracting. We have to reduce our mail processing infrastructure to get ahead of the declining volumes that we now face. This activity is the core of our ability to return the Postal Service to profitability. Reducing our infrastructure in response to volume decline is nothing new. Since 2006, mail volume dropped 20%, and we have reduced our network by nearly 200 mail processing facilities. We did this successfully without any appreciable impact to our customers. In fact, we delivered record service during this period. These reductions were accomplished without laying off any craft employees. How did we do it? In part through a formal process involving area mail process studies, or AMP studies. We've actually been using this process for decades, and it works very well. Using the study data and objective criteria, we determine whether there is a business case for consolidation. And there are opportunities built into the process. Opportunities including this public meeting and written comment period, so that community members can ask questions and provide feedback to local postal officials. We'll continue to follow the AMP process and use study data and public input and objective criteria in making our decisions. By 2013, the network may consist of fewer than 200 mail processing facilities, which would put us ahead of the cost curve for the remainder of the decade. We know this is an aggressive plan, but the result will be a core operating network that will meet our needs and meet the needs of the nation for the next 30 years. Here's what our mail processing footprint looks like today. You can see that we have facilities throughout the country, facilities of varying sizes that employ anywhere from 50 to 2,000 employees. What happens in these facilities is relatively simple. First, the mail is brought in, almost always a combination of mail collected from post offices and mail dropped off directly by business customers. Then the mail is sorted, almost all of it through an automated process, before it is either shipped back for local delivery or shipped to another mail processing facility, depending on its ultimate destination. To support our overnight service commitment, most of this processing takes place in the middle of the night. In fact, our entire network was designed based on a requirement that we maintain the capability to deliver first-class mail locally the next business day. This requirement prevents us from being able to sort the mail until all the mail that needs to be sorted into delivery order for local letter carriers has arrived at the facility. This has enormous implications because it constrains our operating windows, forcing us to process in the middle of the night, and it forces us to maintain a large number of mail processing locations. The stars on this map represent all of the mail processing facilities being reviewed for possible consolidation. Blue stars represent facilities for which studies are already underway, and red stars represent the 252 additional mail processing facilities that were on the list that we released on September 15, 2011. As you can see, we are taking a comprehensive look at the entire network, using the AMP study process to determine the feasibility of consolidations. The studies will consider the overall financial impact of closure and consolidation and will include significant stakeholder input. We expect that it will take approximately 3 months to complete each study. This is what the Postal Service's mail processing network might look like in the future after consolidation. You can see that each remaining facility would support a much larger geographical area. We are able to study closing so many facilities because we are also intending to propose a change to the 1 to 2 day requirement for first-class mail delivery. This type of change is also known as a service standard change, for those familiar with postal regulations. A service standard is a stated goal for service achievement for each class of mail. The postal network is built to meet the existing goals that are now in place. That means that even though the dramatic decline in mail volume has resulted in excess capacity in the network, If we reduce the size of the network to address the excess capacity problem, we would not be able to consistently achieve the existing service standards. That is why we intend to propose to rebuild the network based on a 2 to 3 day standard for local delivery of first-class mail. The operational benefits would be tremendous, even though the change would go relatively unnoticed to the average customer. This would allow us to design a much more efficient, lower-costing mail processing network with far fewer facilities. Here you can get a sense of what this change would represent. This is how we meet the current overnight first-class mail delivery requirement. The circles represent a 24-hour clock. On the left, you see that the overnight first-class mail delivery requirement compresses our mail processing time into a relatively small window of activity, beginning roughly at midnight and continuing for the next 4 to 6 hours. To be able to sort most of the mail volumes into delivery order for the letter carrier to take to the street, we currently must wait to begin final processing of mail until all mail that is to be delivered arrives at the facility. Due to the overnight first-class mail service standard, we have to maintain this capacity even though it is not especially efficient. And given the time and distance associated with getting mail to and from each facility, it also means that we have to maintain numerous facilities. The proposed operating model would be based on changing to a 2 to 3 day delivery for first-class mail in the service standard range. This would allow mail to be processed during a much longer period during the 24-hour clock and allow the facility to process far more mail. It would also require fewer facilities because our geographic reach would greatly expand. We anticipate that this kind of future network would support a 2 to 3 day first-class service standard. It would include revised times for dropping off first-class mail, or what we call entry times for first-class mail. We would also expect that these consolidations would result in an estimated 50% reduction in mail processing equipment and a significant reduction in our physical footprint, eliminating the latent capacity, meaning the time when the equipment is not running in our network. It would also enable both us and our customers to optimize transportation. For mailers, fewer entry points would allow for better truck utilization with fuller trucks with fewer stops. The bottom line is there is significant annual savings that will be realized from the proposed network's changes. The one obvious question about these changes is, how does this impact our customers? There are really two major areas of change that would affect our commercial customers. First, local footprint changes. Literally, where business customers would need to drop off their mail. Customers can drop off mail at almost any accepting facility. However, to get a destination discount that some mailers get, mail must be entered where it is processed. Our local management team is available to discuss specific mailing concerns with anybody here who did not attend our 4 o'clock meeting this afternoon for the commercial mailers. Second, entry times associated with a change in the service standards. Some of our major mailers would need to adjust entry times if they wanted certain mail to be delivered overnight. So we would still offer that option for the mailers to get mail delivered overnight. For example, if the service standard was changed to a 2 to 3 day delivery, a mailer who previously could get the mail in by midnight would now need to get the mail in by noon. This change does not impact pickup and delivery to our residential customers. We also think our commercial customers would be able to readily accommodate the new schedule. Many of our largest customers and mailing industry associates have actually told us that they understand that we need to do this. That being said, we know that the proposed changes would have a significant impact on the mailing industry and local mailers. We've outlined the proposal to most of the major industry groups on a conceptual basis and have generally been pleased with their responses. We have a good track record of working with the industry and with local mailers, and we are committed to making sure that any transition would be as smooth as possible. We plan to work closely with all of our customers, just as we have done during the past 5 years of these consolidations. I would like to speak for a moment about our employees. These business decisions are not made lightly, and these changes would affect many of our employees. We have a dedicated, committed workforce. Postal employees do a phenomenal job, and they deserve tremendous credit for achieving the record service and efficiency gains over the past 5 years. Even in these very challenging times, they have in fact met the challenge. Nearly every employee at our mail processing facilities could be touched by these changes. Change, even the possibility of change, is very unsettling. Should these changes become a reality, we will make every effort to accommodate employees and provide positions where we can. We would also work closely with our unions to reposition affected employees. Over the past 12 years, the size of our workforce has been reduced by 250,000 employees. Positions, most of them mostly through attrition, which largely involves retirements. We have never laid off an employee. It is part of our culture to be a responsible employer, and we will continue to be just that. The challenge ahead is to further reduce the size of our workforce to match the future network. We do not want to have to lay off any employees, but because it may become an option we need to consider, we are seeking the authority to be able to do so. The numbers on this slide illustrate the challenge we face. Currently, there are 559,000 career employees with the Postal Service. 151,000 of those employees work for the mail processing facilities. We're looking to reduce that count by 35,000 employees by the end of 2013. Now that I have shared the plans for our new mail processing network, I'd like to discuss some of the specifics about this particular AMP study. First, let me make it clear that the results of this study are currently under review by the area office, the district office, and by headquarters, and that they are subject to change. Let me provide a brief and simplified version of mail flow for a mail processing plant for those of you not familiar. Typically in a plant we process both outgoing and incoming mail. In the Newcastle plant we now process incoming mail. Outgoing mail is known as originating mail. Those are the letters and bills and packages that you are sending out. We collect this mail from post offices and collection boxes, and we bring it into a central processing location. This outgoing mail is sorted according to its destination or zip code and then becomes known as destinating or incoming mail. Incoming mail also flows into a facility from other processing centers around the country. The incoming mail is sorted and prepared for delivery to homes and businesses. The Newcastle, PA processing and distribution facility and the Pittsburgh P&DC are approximately 46 miles apart. This study proposes that we merge the mail processing operations into the Pittsburgh facility in order to benefit from the economies of scale. We cannot afford to keep the machines running at levels far below capacity. We cannot afford to run our transportation to other parts of the country with trucks that are far from full. If the consolidation of operations of these two facilities is approved, there's an expected annual savings of over $2 million. To be exact, the proposed annual savings is $2.667 million. In most consolidations, employees are impacted, and oftentimes they have to change jobs, hours, and/or work locations. All reassignments will be made in accordance with the agreements that we have with our unions. The study shows a projected net reduction of 8 employees. Now, I'll explain this further on in the presentation. The net reduction of employees is dealing with jobs that will be available remaining in the Newcastle facility and the jobs that will be added to the Pittsburgh facility. The study shows that the employees from the Newcastle facility will in fact be relocated within a 50-mile radius. Every attempt will be made to place the employees into those positions. The proposed consolidation would support a 2 to 3 day service standard for first-class mail. Delivery times and delivery of mail to residencies would not change, and deliveries to businesses would not change. The business reply operation at the Newcastle facility would remain intact. A local postmark would still remain available at our retail units. As I stated earlier, this study is currently under review at the area, at the district, and at headquarters, and there may be changes to these studies based on those reviews. We will continue to take public comments through December 30th, 2011, and then those comments will be reviewed before a final decision is made. Our last slide will provide an address to mail these comments to. For all of us, change can be very unsettling. We know that the changes that our network optimization and service change proposals call for may have significant impact on many of our customers. But I want to assure you that even as we pursue critical operational changes that, if implemented, that will affect nearly everyone who uses the mail and many of our employees, the Postal Service remains committed to providing the best possible service to you, our customers. We're going to take a 5-minute break, and then I will be happy to hear your comments or any questions you may have.
Good evening. My name is Anthony Mastrangelo. I'm the mayor of the city of Newcastle. I'm once again here before you to voice my strong opposition to the potential closure of the Newcastle mail processing plant and the loss of over maybe 100 jobs. On Wednesday, July 15th, 2009, we were before you questioning a study to review mail volume and determine capacity needs in order to increase efficiency and improve productivity. And at that time, I commented that Newcastle facility was ranked number 2 out of 268, and Pittsburgh was 128. We were grateful, of course, to learn the decision to move only a small portion of the mail distribution to Pittsburgh, affecting only 23 jobs. I commented further that I hope this was not a short-term decision. My concerns have now become reality. I'm here to strongly oppose the closure of the Newcastle mail distribution facility. The city of Newcastle is designated as a financially distressed community in August of 2007 under Act 47. We've been some success in stabilizing our finances, but the potential closure will have a devastating effect on our community. The city can't afford to lose over 100 jobs. In addition, the U.S. Postal Service, which I believe is the best throughout the world. My concern is, for instance, to mail a letter in Newcastle, it may take 2 days. I can only imagine what it take in New York City or Chicago. On November 17, 2011, along with members of City Council, passed a resolution to strongly oppose the consolidation and closure of the Newcastle United States Postal Service process and distribution facility. A copy is attached to my report. I want to thank you for the opportunity to voice my concern on behalf of the citizens of Newcastle. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mayor.
Good evening. My name is Dan Vogler. I'm one of the Lawrence County Commissioners. I'm here tonight on behalf of my fellow 2 commissioners, Rick de Blasio and Steve Craig. I do have a hard act to follow in the mayor. I echo what the mayor had to say. 2 points that my colleagues and I would like to make, and then a third point on my own, if you will. Number one, we appreciate certainly your having this hearing here, and we are certainly hopeful that you will give serious consideration to the thoughts and concerns and ideas that you may hear tonight from the people present, those who particularly will speak to you tonight. Personally, I've had the pleasure of working with a lot of your employees through the years. You've got a dedicated staff up here in the Newcastle area, as well as your ancillary post offices throughout the county. And while we're mindful of the fact that you have very important and difficult decisions to make. We're also mindful of the fact, number two, that the productivity of the office here in Newcastle, from what we're told, and we believe it, is a very high one, and we hope that is taken into account as well. Obviously, I spent a number of years in the private sector and recognize the value of productivity, because productivity obviously has an ultimate effect on the budgets of any organization, and including yours, obviously. Those were the two concerns that, as a group, we wanted to make tonight. Obviously, we echo what the mayor said. We would hope that every effort could be made to keep the facility open. Third and foremost, and this is me speaking, I must tell you I did not have the opportunity to discuss this with either of my colleagues, but what triggered it was as I was viewing your presentation, and the one word that appeared, I think, in the second slide was the word radical. And I'd like to throw out perhaps what might be considered a radical idea. Nonetheless, I hope it's one that you'll take into account. One of the things that we're blessed with here in Lawrence County is a tremendous highway network. We have Interstate 79 running through our county, a portion of it at least. The Turnpike runs through a portion of Lawrence County. Interstate 376, which is the former State Route 60, which takes you from Monroeville through downtown Pittsburgh, past the greater Pittsburgh Airport, into Beaver County, up through all of Lawrence County, up to Interstate 80, is a very essential highway link. And then finally, we're very close to Interstate 80, which, as you know, is a major east to west route, as well as U.S. Route 422. We're blessed with a very well-structured highway network in this area. And one of the things we're blessed with as well that the greater Pittsburgh area unfortunately has to bear with every day is traffic congestion. We don't have to put up with traffic jams to the extent that the greater Pittsburgh area has to. What I'd like you to take into account, and I recognize that all of you here tonight have a much greater background on this issue than I do, and I hope you'll understand and respect that fact. But I'd like to submit and propose the concept of perhaps the location of Lawrence County, specifically Newcastle, as almost a central point between Erie, Pennsylvania and Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. We're an hour north of Pittsburgh. We're about an hour and 20 minutes south of Erie. And for that matter, we're about about a half an hour directly to the east of Youngstown, Ohio. So from a strategic standpoint and a transportation aspect, I think we have an ideal location here, coupled with our highway network, coupled with a relatively low amount of traffic congestion that might need to be taken into account when you look at Erie, Youngstown, Pittsburgh, and this area as well. I hope you would give consideration to that. And again, in conclusion, I hope you'll give serious consideration to the comments and ideas that you'll hear from the other folks this evening. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
These are hard acts for me to follow. I'm Mary Ann Gavro. I'm the president of Newcastle City Council, and my colleague, Councilman Richard Brachero, is here with me, and I'm speaking on behalf of all of Newcastle City Council. We are deeply opposed to the closing of the Newcastle plant, as we do not believe that it is ever the intention of the Founding Fathers to lower the standards of the Postal Service. From the Pony Express to the current Postal Service, it was always believed that mail would be delivered through rain, sleet, snow, and ice, and whatever other atrocities come our way. Instead of reducing the standards of the Postal Service, Congress and the United States Postal Service should be striving to improve the service. This is guaranteed under the United States Constitution. The plant in the city of Newcastle is an important economic resource. As a financially distressed city, the residents cannot sustain the loss of jobs in the city of Newcastle. The main population is elderly and uses the post office. Tax bills and sanitation bills are sent. We have many businesses, including a great array of nonprofits, that utilize this postal plant. The officials of the city of Newcastle want the postal plant to remain open. We continually hope that the USPS and Congress will come together and realize this is not the way to solve the issues. With the economic climate in this country in distress, no one can afford to have a loss of service and, most importantly, a loss of jobs. I also appreciate being able to speak to you tonight. I do have a question. The plant in Newcastle is located in the city of Newcastle. We are in Neshannock Township. 2 years ago, I attended the public hearing, and I also followed up, and I will continually follow up with letters to my congressman and to the Postal Service in Washington, D.C. The auditorium at the Newcastle City High School was filled 2 years ago. I don't understand why this was not held in the city. If Newcastle High School was not able to provide you with their facility, there are other facilities that could have occurred. The county has an annex to the courthouse that has a big meeting room. The Lawrence County Social Service facility has LCAP. They have Ben Franklin School, which has a very large auditorium. My belief, and this is my personal belief, has nothing to do with City Council, is that you all planned this to be outside of the city realm so that this place could not be packed with city residents who this will impact. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Dana McQuiston. I'm from State Representative Chris Sonato's office in downtown Newcastle. He's in legislative session in Harrisburg, and he did provide me with a statement to read on his behalf. It is crucial that we meet today amid recent developments concerning the plans to possibly close 3,700 post offices and 252 mail facilities nationwide. As some of you may know, on December 13th, the Postal Service released a statement in response to the request of multiple legislators, including myself, regarding the proposed consolidation plans. The USPS has agreed to delay the closings or consolidation of any post office or mail processing facility until May 1st of 2012. During the interim period, the Postal Service will continue to review all facilities and hold meetings for public input. The Postal Service has also expressed optimism that the delay will help facilitate the enactment of comprehensive postal legislation to improve their current financial situation. We must remain vigilant in ensuring that any comprehensive postal legislation will protect the over 100 local citizens currently employed by the Newcastle mailing processing facility. The lifeblood of a community exists in its ability to disseminate information quickly and efficiently to its citizens. For many local communities, including Newcastle, the delivery of pertinent information is dependent upon the United States Postal Service. Therefore, any reduction or elimination of the services provided by the Postal Service will likely have a detrimental impact throughout the community. The men and women employed by the Newcastle mailing facility ensure the first-class mail receives first-class delivery. Closing the facility could inconvenience local citizens through slower mail delivery. Furthermore, it could also add additional costs to take mail from the area served by the Newcastle facility to another site, only reverted back to the original area. This appears to be counterproductive to the Postal Service's plan to reduce costs. As local economies are struggling and unemployment rates remain high, now is not the time to attempt to lower costs nationwide by eliminating approximately 100 local jobs. While many potential customers are turning to email and other methods for quick communication, the Postal Service should be seeking ways to improve and expedite its services instead of hampering it. In the past, the Postal Service has thrived on its ability to provide a multitude of services and value to customers nationwide with relative ease. In the future, it should continue to do more of the same. It is my hope that the Postal Service carefully reviews all potential negative effects that the closure of the Newcastle mailing processing facility could have on the local community and its economy. Please know that I am willing to discuss this matter further with all interested parties in hopes of finding an amicable solution, one that allows the Newcastle facility to continue offering top-notch service to its customers throughout the community. If you have any questions, please contact me. I do have his contact information.
Good evening.
Good evening.
My name is Ed Stevens. I'm a citizen of Neshannock Township and a local elected supervisor here in the township. I just wrote a few notes regarding your talk. As a concerned citizen and a local elected official, I would respectfully urge the board to do all in its power to enhance and maintain this facility, not only for the benefit of the local employees and community at large, but for all the taxpayers. Our county, city, and township cannot afford the loss of any revenue and/or jobs. In fact, we could greatly need your assistance to maintain that. It's very costly to create jobs, and it's very costly to run townships and municipalities, and we would respectfully ask that you give us some consideration with all the tough decisions you have to make. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Derek Senator. I'm a citizen of Newcastle and a spouse of a career postal employee. When you were here last in July of '09, you represented to the people in the town here that this was a study to only remove the outgoing mail operations and that the delivery standard would remain intact for local delivery of one day, and that the facility was not closing. And in June of '09, our local elected officials, Mr. Vogler, all of our commissioners, and a representative of Altmeier's office were told by Postmaster Pat Donahoe and Mr. Alan Kessler from the Board of Governors in a phone conference that this office would not close. I feared that, as Mayor Mastrangelo said, that we would be here at some future date looking at a full closure. Part of my fears were brought on by Mr. Kelly's comments to the media in April of '09 that a study to close the facility would take months, and it was picked up and reported by every media outlet in April of '09 that those were his words, closure, and I don't think it was an accident. He's a professional spokesperson for the Postal Service, and so here we are. I question why there was no mention in your presentation there how much money has been saved since you've taken the outgoing mail from Newcastle to Pittsburgh. That was the reason it was done. It was going to save money. I would have thought if that was a successful move, you would have touted that on your slide there, but I didn't see anything. And I don't know what the official record is of the Pittsburgh processing plant on handling our mail. If there is such a record, did they maintain a delivery standard that was in place? I can personally say my mail, since the mail was taken, has not been delivered next day locally a lot of the time. I question whether 2 to 3 days is even possible considering that fact. So I think that I would like to echo everybody else's comments that we strongly reconsider closing this facility, and unless you can show, I would think to our elected officials here at least, that your previous move was successful and you did save the money you said you were going to save, and you did preserve the delivery standard that was intact, any future moves should be scrapped. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm from Neshannock Township, but we are senior citizens, and you take your plant and close it, and we get our bills the end of the month, and you're going to take days away from us to get our bills by the 3rd when we get our pay. We're going to get late fees, and we just don't think this is fair. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Ken Sasadak. I'm a mail processing clerk in Newcastle. It's a bit of a follow-up to Commissioner Vogler's statement on the Newcastle location. We're right in the middle of Erie and Pittsburgh, and we're roughly 15 miles from Youngstown. Youngstown, Ohio is also facing a closure like we are. Now, I know you want to maximize the utilization of your machines. If you would combine the Newcastle and Youngstown facilities, you can do that, and you can also lessen the inconvenience for roughly 300 employees. And I don't know if you have talked about that or not, but like I said, if you're sincere about it, then I don't know why that wouldn't be an option.
The entire AMP study is currently still under review. A lot of people think when you announce a study that things are finalized and that's it. We came to the conclusion last week that we altered the study that was proposed for Altoona, and we're keeping the destinating operation there. So, you know, as we do look at these, we take everything into consideration, and Mr. Wall's taking notes there, and we will, in fact, take a look at that.
Well, I appreciate it, because like I said, we're so close to Youngstown, and they process actually more mail than we do, and you're lessening the inconvenience on over 300 employees.
Thank you.
My name's Tom Litton. I've been an employee for 25 years at the Postal Service. And in the 1970s, the Post Office created these facilities, these 235 facilities, or most of them, to increase the distribution, make it faster and more efficient for the customers. Well, are we not going backwards? Are we going back to the 70s by closing these facilities, making it harder, putting back the 2 to 3 day service where you say you're going to save mail? You're not going to save mail. You're going to lose more mail because people are going to ship their packages and whatever through UPS because they don't want to wait longer to have their mail distributed.
The package and priority network will not be affected at all.
Sure. Okay, you're saying that now. Okay, but when you guys are putting out the advertisements on TV and on newspapers and stuff, you're not making that clear. That is not clear. The public thinks that the packages and all that is included, and that's what's going to be. That's where you're going to lose. You're not publicizing it very well, and the public thinks that when you say mail, that includes all mail. So when they're going to ship a package, where are they going to go? They're going to go to FedEx, UPS, and what have you.
Mark will put that down, and I will bring that up at the meeting with headquarters next week. However, we have widely advertised that the only 2 proposed changes are in periodicals and an overnight first-class delivery. But I will tell them that some of our people think we need to emphasize that a little bit better.
And I have one question about your savings, employee savings is $2.9 million.
Yes, sir.
And your management saving is $1,200. What's that? Paper clips and staples. Now, I did my own AMP study, and just at our facility, there's 8 management positions that can be cut, and that's light. Okay, that's a savings of roughly $500,000, and that's light. And you times that by 252 places that you wish to close, and which shows are larger, this would roughly come to about $500 million a year that you would save right there. And these people, these jobs I'm talking about at Newcastle are supervision that's dealing with reports, and you have 3 and 4 people that are running the same reports. I know because I used to work in the timekeeper department, which supplied them all these reports. And then you have 3 and 4 supervisors on a ship that you don't need to have a shift because employees know what they're supposed to do. All you need somebody there is to tell them to sign in and sign out.
My name is Deanne Fox, and I'm a senior citizen, and I'm also disabled. I could go and my bills, I get my Social Security, and my bills are due soon after the Social Security. Now, I could go online, but I can't because my hands won't work. And so I have to use the mail process. And I've never had a late bill. But I'm afraid that if you go with this, that my bills will be late. And who's going to pay that extra money that I'm going to have to pay in penalties because of this, the closure of our plants?
Name's David Wigley. I'm a local president of the American Postal Workers Union at Newcastle Mail Facility. A lot of us that's attending this meeting was back here inside 2008, 2009. We went through this stuff previously, and since this is a question and answer session, I have some questions which I think need explained. I'd like to start with the feasibility study that was given to us. Why would the report be written up as if we had already moved to Pittsburgh? It ends up having the employee count and positions lost and the total net loss as being something after the jobs that would be created in Pittsburgh are counted into the thing. Last time when we looked at our paper, it gave us Newcastle's.
The study is done, Dave, based from the way the operation is now, and the final counts of the study is done on what the effects would be if, in fact, we went through with the move.
I don't think it gives. Just so the people know inside here, okay, going along those same lines then, if, in fact, all the opinions, and there hasn't been a final determination as to what's to take place because the public's input is going to be considered. Could you explain to me why Article 12 was invoked at the regional level in regard to the Newcastle AMP?
Article 12 has been invoked across the country, David, not just because of Newcastle.
No. What should end up transpiring, from my understanding of things, is when, in fact, there's a determination that something is happening and you have to save jobs for some place, then Article 12 gets invoked for that particular place and certain positions get set aside. That's already taken place in regard to the Newcastle AMP. That isn't normally how things take place. It would be after a determination has been made that you was going to end up losing positions.
Being a responsible employer, we would want to save any jobs within that 50-mile radius in case something did take effect. Doesn't mean it's going to happen. It's just us looking to the future and
I thank you for your consideration there, sir. Along those same lines, since you mentioned it, 50 miles. I saw in your poster up here 46 miles. Whenever we went and we rode that route, we end up finding out that the distance can be anywhere from 50.3 to 51 and not 46. The 46 miles leaves us 3 miles outside of the facility. And it's also my understanding that that 50 miles is key due to the fact that there's displacement employee benefits kick in at the 50-mile point. So where are we at? How did we come up with the 46 miles?
The MapQuest shows that it's 46. The MapQuest shows that it's 46 miles, and we've also had 2 individuals that confirmed that it was under 50 miles. In addition to that, David, the 50 miles would only come into play if, in fact, employees from Newcastle went to the Pittsburgh facility. I'm sure you're well aware that we have facilities in Warrendale, the LNDC and the NDC that are less than 30 miles.
Yes, I am, sir.
That also have several available positions.
Not that's been held underneath the AMP from what was given at the regional level. That may be subject to change at any time, but that's not currently what's on the paperwork. In fact, 95% of what's currently being held for the Newcastle AMP are mail handler and carrier positions inside the Article 12 report I just ended up getting a week ago.
A majority of jobs within this area that we've been holding for over 2.5 years are in fact carrier positions, Dave.
I'm just was reemphasizing what the regional paperwork that was ended up. Now, my last point that I'd like to make is I'd like to ask a question for the people at the meeting. Would you mind? How many of you believe that a way to end up saving a business that is service-orientated is to reduce the service standards?
Nobody here believes that, David. Nobody other than me.
I believe that's something which is unrealistic if, in fact, we're looking at things as being something that we're looking to save the Postal Service in its future. To reduce service doesn't make any sense. And once you end up, these amps are done, what's going to be done for us ever to get back to the service we provide today inside 3 years or 4 years from now? That's the best we're going to be able to do from then on once these mail processing centers get done away with. Oh, yes?
Well, I'm waiting. I didn't really hear a question, Dave.
Oh, well, in your opinion, it's a good idea, or it's in our best interest to eliminate service standards and not ever, would we be able to ever replace the places that we do away with and come back to the service that we're currently providing for customers?
These decisions were made, David, after we talked to numerous customers throughout the country, talked with our commercial mailers, talked with local mailers, talked with business people throughout the country on certain options we felt that we had to get the Postal Service back to profitability and back to viability. And one of the things that the customers, the business customers, said that they could stand would be the relaxation of overnight first-class standards.
Are those the same individuals that we provide these exotic, quote, discounts to, and actually the discounts exceed what the savings for the Postal Service is?
I'm not sure.
Are those the individuals that we're talking about?
I'm not aware, David, of if that cross-reference is there or not.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
John Jackson, concerned citizen. Under the current guidelines, the current regulations, if you were mailing I heard it mentioned a number of times, let's say a bill payment on a Friday, is it possible for someone from Newcastle to get that on a Saturday?
Mailing it?
On a Friday?
Sure. Yes, sir.
Okay. Under many of the proposals that are before Congress now, or that the Postal Service is trying to implement, getting rid of Saturday service, reducing the service standards that you spoke of. If I then mailed a bill payment on a Friday, and let's say Monday was a holiday, when would that person get that letter?
Tuesday.
Well, I thought you had 3 days to process it. So if you don't have, would you have processing on Saturday?
We don't have 3 days. What we're looking at is to eliminate overnight service. So something that now, if you mailed on a Friday, would be there on a Saturday. If you mailed it on a Friday, it would be there on a Monday, but you said Monday was a holiday, right, so it would be there on Tuesday.
Okay, so that's 4-day service.
We don't work, if we weren't working Saturday, Sunday, and Monday.
Right, so my point is, ladies and gentlemen, you are not going to get what you're looking for through what we're talking about here. You need to talk to your congressman. We need to talk to our congressman to get these things. Is that correct? We need to get the changes, the Saturday delivery. We're not going to get that through you, right? You're going to change that. That's your proposal to get rid of Saturday service. So I would not be able to mail that letter on Friday like I can today and have it delivered on Saturday, correct?
If in fact 5-day delivery went through.
Right, but that's what you're trying to do.
Unless, sir, that bill that you're mailing was going to a P.O. box, and in fact it would be delivered on Saturday.
Okay, but I'm just saying under your standards, well, if I was mailing it to a company, then they wouldn't be able to get it on Saturday, correct?
Majority of our companies have P.O. boxes or have firm holdouts, but it's a matter of semantics.
Okay, I guess my point is, ladies and gentlemen, we're not going to get what we're looking for from this meeting today. You need to contact your congressman, let your congressman know about changes in delivery standards and Saturday delivery, those things that, just as Dave said, that are going to change. The Postal Service is reducing window services, window hours, long lines now. All of this, as like Dave said, the gentleman before me, that those things that affect you as not as an employee, but just as a mailing customer are going to affect you unless you get your congressman involved. Only the Congress can get involved and stop what's going on here today, not the gentleman that we're speaking to this morning.
Thank you.
I'm a 28-year vet from the Newcastle plant. I'm retired now. And just as an aside to all the talk that's going on here, while you're using that service standard change, where are you going to stage this mail? Are you going to rent garages? Where are you going to put all this mail that's being held? This first-class mail that's been set aside, where are you going to stage that? You've got more people in the plant in Pittsburgh. You've got more equipment. You've got more mail. Where are you going to put it all? Because I have seen Newcastle when you can't even move up there.
Once the mail is put into the system under a 2-day cycle, there would not be a backup. It would be the same as it is now.
Wow, that's really interesting.
Hi, Michelle Boffman, Expediter at Newcastle Post Office. Since you took our cancellation mail, get back to Derek's. What savings have you made? You've added extra trucks to get all the mail down to you to be processed, so you didn't save no money in transportation. You're sending your third-class standard mail up to us to process because you don't have time to process it. And also, how many other facilities you send it to? Erie? Altoona? No answers?
I'll let my plant manager answer that about the standard mail.
Okay. First of all, when I was discussing the movement of mail between Pittsburgh and Newcastle and Johnstown, I talked with the plant manager in Newcastle. You do not have enough mail to sustain yourself unless we unless we excess and abolish jobs.
Is that true for Erie and Altoona? I mean,
Erie we do not send mail to. Altoona we do not send mail to.
You have sent mail to Erie.
No, we stopped that in August, okay, when we realigned.
Oh, but you were sending it to Erie.
Yes, we were.
Okay.
Yes, we were. Okay, but we had to realign our staffing.
Tell them what the mail is,
Okay.
Jeff.
The mail that we're receiving, okay, we are a consolidation site for Detroit, Cleveland, Rochester, New York, Buffalo, New York, Akron. It's all mixed state standard mail. That mail comes into Pittsburgh as a consolidation site. In the planning stage of a consolidation site, we had to readjust our staffing. We just recently went through a rebidding of all of Tour 3, and we still have Tour 1 to restaff.
So that mail is not Pittsburgh mail, that's actually World Mail, Mixed States Mail, that we took on approximately 2 years ago. We took on the flats, and approximately 8 months ago, we took on the letters. It's mail that's coming in, as Jeff said, from several different facilities across the northern part of the country.
Okay, and then the first class mail. Let's get to the first class mail then. Since you've taken our cancellations, or what we call our HOTS truck, which is supposed to be our 2 o'clock truck, which is supposed to be, used to be anything after 2 o'clock didn't get processed. But every night we're waiting for that 2 o'clock truck, who has been late at least, oh, I know because I put it in the computer, at least 98% of the time since you've taken our mail. You have not been able to get that truck to us on time, so we wait for that truck. And now you've also scheduled an extra truck because you can't even make that 2 o'clock truck. So now you're paying for another truck to come up here to deliver some mail to get out of your building so your numbers look good, Meanwhile, we're all standing around waiting for your mail so we can finish our jobs and get our trucks out on time. So we still don't figure out where is the savings that you've already made so far.
The only comment I can make on the savings is the Office of the Inspector General did a study for the first full year. I do not have the figures in front of me. We didn't do the study. The Office of the Inspector General did the study, and our savings exceeded what were projected for the first year.
And then the truck, with this standard mail you were talking about, I'll send him out 100%, and then when he arrives in Pittsburgh, all of a sudden in the computer showing up, he's empty. Where does that mail go?
The standard mail?
Yeah.
It goes straight to the LNDC to be dispatched.
No, when it comes to when my truck that I send to you 100% arrives in your office, it goes in the computer that he arrived empty.
I'd have to take a look at that. But,
Does your
but the
panel-
mail you process goes to the LNDC to be dispatched.
But he said these experts make these projections.
Mm-hmm.
Who's feeding them the numbers to make these projections when they're being fudged like that, where we're sending truck down 100%, and then when he gets down to Pittsburgh, and the computer's showing that he has no mail on him. When it's mail, we're processing that you're sending us.
I can't answer that because I haven't seen that.
Full Times report.
Okay.
Thank you.
If you'd like to pull those and send those to me, I'd be glad to turn those over to the Inspector General myself. Okay?
Okay. And while I went up here, I'm not holding anybody up. Ripped and torn mail. How much ripped and torn mail is sitting in your facility, and how long has it been sitting in that facility? And then you send it up to us to be patched up because you just can't handle that. I believe somebody found income tax, just what, like a month ago? Somebody's income tax from March 15th, postmark, ripped and torn, sitting around for that many. So what was that person penalized? Because we're using all this automation to get these people the mail faster, supposedly, and we're ripping and tearing it, and then we just leave it sit around. I mailed something October 18th, priority mail. It's never been received by the person I sent it to, and I've never got it back to me. So, like, that's sitting somewhere. My dad never got his check, his retirement check. He's never got it. I mean, who's taking care of the customers?
Well, did you check with claims and inquiry?
Pardon me?
On the priority mail, did you check with claims and inquiry on that? Did you put a claim in?
No.
Well, you should, because we have a room where if things are torn or addresses come off, you call claims and inquiry, they will look up, and if you describe what you sent, they'll see if they have it. And they keep it, I don't know the exact period of time they keep it, but if you call them, you can check on that.
The LNDC and the NDC also keep track of those, which if you sent priority, it may have gone through those facilities.
But I didn't do no tracking on it, so I
They
mean, it's
can-
hard to believe one big priority
If you give
envelope
them
could
a
disappear.
description of the package, okay, and even if they have a partial address, they hold on to that and try to find it for you.
All that is ripped and torn. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Jay Mock. I'm an electronic tech for Newcastle. Been there for a little over 20 years. Now, last Friday, I talked to Shared Services because I'm getting a little closer to retirement than what I'd like to be, but they said that with this displaced worker or discontinued service retirement, which they said is both two names for the same process. They said if the mileage from my house to my new job is 50 or more miles, then the district office has to implement the deferred or the displaced worker retirement. Now, are you figuring on doing that? Because for me to go to the GMF in Pittsburgh is 76 miles. For me to go to either the LNDC or the The NDC is 52 miles, and that's by MapQuest and Google Maps.
The displaced worker, sir, does in fact take place when it's in excess of 50 miles. I'm sure that if that took place, that the parties from the APWU and the Mail Handlers Union would get together with folks, and we would measure that out and come to an exact. There seems to be a disagreement, and before anything would be settled, we would come up with what the exact mileage is if that in fact took place.
Driven by who?
I said we would get together with the unions.
Okay, now what about, not just me, what about my fellow employees at Newcastle who, if they go to, if their job is set up to go to the GMF in Pittsburgh, if they live north of Newcastle any significant amount, they're going to be outside that 50-mile range too.
It's the facility distance is
No,
what
it's
is
not.
measured.
No, it is not. I talked to Shared Services. They told me specifically that the OPM measures that distance from your house to the new facility.
Well, then I guess you'd be entitled to it.
Okay.
I'm going to take advantage, since there's no one else coming up to the mic. How many employees are currently here that work at the Newcastle plant? Can you? Wow. What a tax base that is for Newcastle that may be lost because of the tearing down of the Postal Service from the inside. This is a comment. Never have I seen a company tear itself down from the inside the way we are doing it. Yes, I'm a postal employee. I've worked for the Postal Service for 25 years. Closing of window services, the reduction of the number of windows that are open, and customers that want to come to us. We're talking about income and making money. Customers that want to come to us but can't come to us after work because we close window services at 5 o'clock in the evening when people get off at 5 o'clock. It's a horrible thing that's going on, folks, and if we do not do something now, you won't be able to walk to your post office to mail letters. You will be, people will come to your door delivering things that have some other kind of uniform on today and a different kind of uniform on tomorrow. You won't know who's handling your checks. I'm imploring you, please, listen to what's going on. Newcastle, a number of years ago, when they talked about production, and Newcastle was the #1 productive plant in the country, and they still took away that plant from you. It's not about production. I believe it might be about privatization or something, but whatever it is, the only way it's going to change, I just said it earlier, is get your congressmen involved. Call them, write them, knock on the door. The reason why these AMP studies were put off, well, the studies are not being put off, and the meetings are not being put off, but I bet you they're being delayed until May, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, but I bet you when May comes, if Congress doesn't do something about it, if they don't hear the whispers or the noise or the banging on the door, Newcastle, as well as every other plant, all 200 or maybe 200 will leave, and these jobs will go, and the continual reduction will take place to the point that the U.S. Postal Service will look nothing like it does today. So I implore you, please, contact your congressman. It was only Congress that delayed what was going on here. Only Congress, because the Senate and the congressman got involved and said, please slow this down. Other than that, we are pulling ourselves down from the inside. Whether it's higher level management and headquarters, you don't have much answers as far as, I'm sure you're just being told that this is what we want to do, this is how it works, these are the numbers, come out and tell us. We're not going to get anything done here, okay? Please, I implore you.
Thank you.
My name is Mike McIntyre. I'm president of the National Postal Mail Handlers Union. I represent the mail handlers that work out here in Newcastle. All right. I think there's a number of things that some of you may not be aware of. Postal Service's financial plight has nothing to do, I shouldn't say nothing to do, it has a little bit to do with the first-class reduction. In 2006, Congress mandated the Postal Accountability Enhancement Act, all right? What that does, that saddles us with a $5.5 billion bill at the beginning of the year. And the bill is for future retiree health benefits. And we had a Republican Congress at the time, and they mandated, okay, we have to pay 75 years worth of future retiree health benefits within a 10-year framework, all right? That's ridiculous. No business in the world can work under that type of mandate. That's one of our biggest problems. Chuck brought up the OIG's office as its gospel, okay? And quite frankly, a lot of times it is for us, right? They've overcharged our civil service pension fund anywhere from 50 to 75 billion, and that's billion with a B, all right? They overcharged us FERS, and this is the OPM, the Office of Personnel Management. It's all upper-level government, right? They overcharged us anywhere, according to what you read, $8 to $12 billion, all right? Technically, the government has over $100 billion worth of our money sitting there. And even if they would give us the money from the Postal Accountability Enhancement Act that's been built up since 2006, which range anywhere from $40 billion to $60 billion, we would have realized a $600 million surplus each of the last 4 years. So the craft employees in Newcastle and everywhere else have been busting their butt and doing a great job, all right? There's no question about that. But just as the gentleman said before me, all right, right now these guys are being mandated what to do and how to do it, what needs to be done, all right? But the power that we need, you need to contact your congressional leaders and let them know what's going on. And if you ever think that your vote doesn't count, I'll give you a real brief example. In the House of Representatives, before this previous group got in, the guy that chaired the Government Reform Committee that oversaw the Postal Service was a Democrat by the name of Stephen Lynch out of Massachusetts. Great friend of the Postal Service, all right? Former union leader, former iron worker, worked his way up, did great. Now that the Republicans control the House, all right, you have Darrell Issa as the chairman up there. This guy's worth something like $800 million. He could care less about the middle class of America, all right? He's the guy that's pushing all the strings. We have a Lynch bill up there called 1351. We've been trying to get it to the committee. Hasn't gone to committee. They got 232 co-sponsors. He's basically saying, give us our money back, all right, so that we can be profitable, so we can do our jobs, all right? Issa's bill only had one co-sponsor, a guy named Ross out of Florida, both Republicans. His bill got to committee. Fortunately, it was shot down. What they wanted to do was force all senior employees to retire, whatever. So all I'm telling you is just, you know, reaffirming these guys, yeah, they're doing their job. They're doing what they're required to do, all right? But technically, management and the craft employees have done an exceptional job, and we should be commended for it, not be taken apart like they're trying to piecemeal us. And right now, it's all about privatization. And once again, when you vote, make sure you know who you vote for, all right? Make sure, number one, that they have working families' interests at heart, all right? The 8 million jobs that were sent overseas during the Bush administration years, all right? Obama, nobody can get 8 million jobs back in 2 or 3 years. But you need to read and educate yourselves and make sure, once again, you got working family people that that are concerned about your ideas and your values. So please, educate yourselves, make sure you're aware of what's going on. And it's good to come in here and vent. These guys get beat up all the time. I represent 18 facilities. I've been to a lot of these meetings. They get beat up, but truthfully, it's being dictated to them from above how they're going to work the Postal Service. So once again, if you want the Newcastle facility to stay here, you need to make sure you contact the right people, all right? Get your congressional leaders involved. That's all I can say. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike.
I have two questions. How are you saving $2.9 million in employee costs if all but 7 of us will have a job in Pittsburgh? We're all going to Pittsburgh. How is it an employee savings here? We're just going to get paid over there.
That's the net savings and it's based, the people that are going to Pittsburgh that would be going down there to be employed are going to fill vacancies that we now have that we're filling with overtime. We've kept vacancies in the Pittsburgh facility. So there are actual vacancies there that should be filled right now that aren't, because we are in fact holding them based on the outcome of the network optimization.
And my other question is, what is it that you would like to hear from anybody here in order to stop the closure of the plant? I don't understand this meeting. We all have a chance to make a comment. What comments do you need to hear in order to change your mind to not close our plant?
Basically,
what are you looking for people to say? I don't understand.
We basically look at the feasibility of going through with the proposed study. That's what we're doing right now.
How much weight does this meeting actually have?
It actually carries quite a bit of weight. As I said, if you would have, we had an Altoona meeting a while back, and comments at that Altoona meeting were in fact taken into consideration for the recent decision last week that was just announced that their destinating mail is going to stay in that facility. So the meetings do mean something. We take it into consideration. We look at the overall study and
so it's
what
possible that we could stay open?
There has been no final decision, so
still?
yes, there's always a possibility. Yes, ma'am.
Thank
you. Mike Coglio, I'm a 14-year veteran of the post office. If I go to the airport and I buy a ticket for a plane, and I buy a first-class ticket, and they put me on that plane and I'm sitting in coach, I'm going to expect a rebate. So my simple question is, are we going to cut the price of a first-class stamp since we're going to slow down mail to third-class standard?
Hello. My name is Shirley Cresawati, and I live in South Newcastle Borough. And I don't know why you guys aren't honest, but our mail's been going to Pittsburgh for some time now. And I buy my medication through the mail. And I had gotten my medicine on the 2nd of November. On the 3rd of November, I mailed a check that had to go to Philadelphia. I got, on the 22nd of the month, I got my second medication with a double bill. So I called the company and I said, I sent a check on the 3rd of November. And they said, we never got it. On the 23rd, I mailed a second check, and I called later to find out if they got that check. They got that one in 5 days. Then I also found out 1 month later, on December the 4th, they got the first check. Why did it take 30 days to get from Newcastle to Pittsburgh to Philadelphia? I called, and I got a claim number. I called the 1-800 number, and I talked to the woman, and she gave me a claim number, and she said, someone will be calling you on Friday or Monday. I never got a call. So I called her again on Thursday, and she said, didn't anybody contact you? And I said, no. She said, well, they left a message here that there's no way to track a first-class letter. Do you think I'm really happy about that?
No, ma'am, I don't.
1 month to get from Newcastle to Pittsburgh to Philadelphia. Thank you, people.
Good evening, Charlie. Steve Wilson, 28-year veteran of the Postal Service, currently serving as the Clerk Craft Vice President in Newcastle. Business hours that don't coincide with customers' needs, not even staffing windows to alleviate the problems, giving up our Saturday delivery when nobody else delivers, trying to cut service standards, giving up by consolidating all these processing plants, the best mail network in the world. And we're looking for viability in an AMP study? That reads like a template how not to run a business. How can you look for viability when what we're doing right now isn't even viable? And I know, like our friend from the mail handler said, I know you guys get beat up a lot, and it's not you guys. And it really isn't. We have to get in touch with the congressmen and the senators. That's the only thing that's going to stop this right now. The mail service isn't just going to leave Newcastle. Under the current administration's plans, it's going to disappear. This country won't even have a mail service. The senators have called, a couple senators have called for Donahoe to step down, Postmaster Donahoe to step down. I guess I agree with that in his whole administration, because if they go through with their plans, we're not even going to have a postal service. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve.
Good evening. My name's Dominic Corso, and I'm from across the border in Ohio. I have a couple of questions. Is this an AMP feasibility study? Basically is about when a facility will close, not if. It's been my experience through all the studies done so far, there's only been one reversal in an AMP study. When an AMP study comes through, they're going to take something. In this case, they want to take all of Newcastle. My question is, the sheet that you passed out, is there a report that generated these numbers that you're going to make available to everyone? So we could really have some genuine input as to how these numbers were arrived? Because I'm looking at management, 4 positions. And you got an annual savings of $1,200. Does that mean each manager makes about $300 a year? That's just my question. If not, then that means that the 7 people who are being moved to Pittsburgh make about $416,000 a year.
Actually, the 4 positions, if you'll see, they're in parentheses.
Right.
Which the vacancies that we have in Newcastle and the vacancies that we have in Pittsburgh would mean that we're actually going to put 4 supervisors on the rolls because we are that short-staffed in the management.
Oh, so the craft isn't short-staffed at all?
They are some, yes, sir.
Oh,
that's why there's positions.
That's figured into this?
Yes, sir.
And like I asked, are you or can you at this time make that report that generated this summary available to everyone in here?
No, sir.
You won't or can't?
Either.
Has it been requested?
It's requested at almost every meeting that we go to, yes, sir.
So there's no transparency here. It's just here's the summary sheet and read it and weep, basically.
The full calculation is presented to anyone who wants it after 1 year if a study is in fact put forward.
Oh, the Information Act that you're talking about? The release of information, what's that, the Congressional Release of Information Act for Freedom of Information?
No, it's through the Office of the Inspector General.
Speaking of which, they did a study for Lima, Ohio, and their mail processing was delayed. A first-class letter, which should have taken overnight, took 4 to 8 days. So the post office said, after the OIG report came out, the post office said, well, we'll fix that. Well, it went from 4 to 8 days to 6 to 10 days. That's how good they fixed it. So after that, they decided, you know what? We know these amps aren't going to work, so we're going to change the delivery standard for first-class mail. So my question is, when a senior citizen and their check is late and doesn't get there for a week, is the Postal Service going to buy their groceries for them? Is the Postal Service going to buy their medication until their check comes in?
We don't feel their check's going to be a week late, sir.
We've already cited examples here, and it hasn't even been fully implemented yet. My question is that going to happen?
Is what going to happen, sir?
Is the post office going to buy groceries for someone who's waiting for their check that's going to be a week late?
No, sir.
No, thank you. That service, is that service for the American people? Is that what this is about?
We don't believe that's going to happen, sir.
Already is. Article 1, Section 8, Clause 7, gives the power for post offices to Congress. Everyone here stood to this microphone, this the exact truth. You must, and now's the time, you must contact your senators, you must contact your congressmen, and tell them how you want your postal service to be. Not these people here, but how the Postmaster General wants it to be. It's your post office. You're an American citizen. You use the post office. It's your post office. Contact them. Tell them what you want it to be. This is the time. If you notice, they have a moratorium on, which means absolutely nothing. It's the post office can afford to be magnanimous and generous because they know time's on their side. Is it true that you guys keep rolling with your national agenda while the moratorium's in place? The national 252 AMP studies are rolling right along.
That is correct. We're continuing the studies.
So my question is, what kind of moratorium is that? If it was a real, genuine, bargaining and good faith moratorium, they'd freeze everything right now. They wouldn't continue to put all the pieces in place so that when the clock strikes midnight, they can start turning off the lights and shutting doors. That's transparency. That's bargaining in good faith. And my last point, well, I'll try to end this real quick here. Just some notes that jotted down as people were discussing some things. Did you guys see on Good Morning America all the unclaimed money that people were getting? Has everyone seen that? People were getting online? And what did they do when they found out their money was sitting there? What did they do? Did they say, go ahead and keep it? Or did they go and get it? They sure as heck did. In Montana, one lady got $6.1 million. People were getting $13,000. Right now, the Postal Service, the government has billions and billions of dollars of unclaimed money that belongs to the Postal Service. And you know what the Postal Service reaction is to that? Oh, well, we're just going to close everything, sell all the furniture, and shut things down. In the meantime, service, who cares? I don't know about you, but if somebody owed me billions and billions of dollars, I'd get Guido, Knuckles, and Godzilla knocking on the door collecting my billions and billions of dollars. I wouldn't be shutting my house down. I wouldn't be burning my house down. That's what they should be proposing here. Maybe they should be asking you, hey, how do we get these billions of dollars from Congress so we could go back to serving the American people the way they deserve? The American people deserve first-class service, not a change in that. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name's Dave Kendall. I'm a retired machinist. I'm 75 years old. I've been retired for 10 years. I got my retirement checks come out of Washington, D.C. I got them on first of the month when they're due without any problem until the last couple of years. I'm still waiting for my November retirement check 45 days later. I have not received my retirement check. So I notified the Washington, D.C., and they told me I had to wait 10 days after the 1st of November before they mailed a second check. They mailed me a second check, and it took 5 days from Washington, D.C. The first one was mailed out. They told me the story when I got it. I have not received it in 45 days, a retirement check. You try retiring and a meager retirement check, and you don't get it, how are you supposed to pay your bills? I have two other retirement checks plus Social Security. Now, the Social Security Administration is a government office. They're dictating that I have to make direct deposit. You multiply that by all the retirement people, that's a big volume of mail you're losing, an awful big volume. And I know I'm going to direct retirement with all my checks. My wife gets 4, I get 4. That takes 8 checks, 96 a year. You multiply that by all the retirees. That's a big volume of mail you're losing just because of poor service. I thank you.
Thank you, sir.
My name is Brian Nosker, employee at the Newcastle facility. Now, currently you're saying our AMP study is still in process. So the determination as far as whether you're going to shut us down or not is going to happen, correct? The determination to shut us down hasn't been made yet.
No, sir, it has not.
Okay. Mr. Tad Kelly, Are you familiar with the Butler Eagle article where they interviewed you on December 7th, 2011, where in it they quote you as saying the Newcastle would cease being a processing center sometime next year. So, I take it from the article.
I read the whole article, sir. I believe there's more leading up to that they ask a question leading into what would happen if, in fact, this study came to fruition. And Mr. Kelly's response was that it would take place sometime next year after posed that question. He did not state that it was, in fact, going to happen.
Good evening. I'm Kathy Senator. I've worked at Newcastle for 28 years. I'm proud to say that I'm an employee of the Newcastle Post Office. We're all family. I implore you to please keep us where we are. We get the mail done. We all work together. I'm begging you. I'm a mother. I have a daughter that's 14 years old. I don't want to travel back and forth to Pittsburgh every day. I'm sure most of these people don't. Most of us are 25 plus years, and you're going to force us to drive to Pittsburgh 60 miles a day, one way. For me, I'm coming from up here. It's just, I feel like you're targeting us. We do everything that you guys ask us to do. We get late trucks. We bust our ass to get the mail out. We get priority mail that the priority center screws up. Our mail handlers bust their ass to get it out right. Every day we get calls from other offices saying, Pittsburgh sent this wrong, Pittsburgh sent that wrong. It's a mess. You guys are sending late mail. You can't get done now. I hear there's millions of pieces of mail at the LNDC that are delayed every single day. How are you going to handle our mail? Change the standards to, it takes, my husband has a business. It takes him 5 days to get mail from Pittsburgh. He'll get a check for a customer 2, 3, 4 days from Newcastle to Newcastle, and he has a P.O. box. I want you to please leave us where we are. You've picked on us for 2 years now, well, way longer than that when you were up here as a plant manager. We're done. We're doing our job. We're number one, and you're still picking on us.
Anybody else? We have about 8 minutes left.
I want to say one more thing. I want to thank you for Neshannock for letting us have a meeting here, because the alternative was the employee parking lot.
Again, many places in this city would have...
You forgot the in a tent portion.
I forgot the tent, yeah.
I just want to thank the individuals here that attended the meeting. As much as I don't usually thank management, I'm going to thank them for an opportunity to get provider input today. But I believe a couple of the speakers made a good point that we really have to think about here. And that is, we've got 252 facilities, mail processing facilities, that's being reviewed at this time. The issue is much bigger than Newcastle. It's a problem going on in the whole Postal Service across the country. The only way that we can address a nationwide problem is to do it through congressional representatives. We have a PRC that reviews the Postal Service's decisions. However, whenever you really read the details of what PRC actually can do. They can only issue advisory opinions. So in other words, the Postal Service can do whatever the hell they feel like doing after they get an advisory opinion that says this or says yay or nay. So the only person and people who are able to put a moratorium or tie some kind of restrictions to the United States Postal Service is going to be Congress. Congress is the one, in my opinion, who created this problem back in 2006 when they passed the Postal Accountability Enhancement Act. They required pre-funding of a retirement system 75 years in advance to be paid over a 10-year period. That means that people who weren't even born yet have to be paying into a system. How ridiculous. No other agency inside the country or business has to do anything like that. So, bottom line is, this meeting, yes, we can provide our input, but overall, the issue and problem is much larger than Newcastle. It's a problem that's taking place with the Postal Service across the country, and we have to have Congress fix it, because inside my opinion, Congress is the one that created the problem. Thank you for your time.
Thanks, Dave.
Everybody's saying that it's higher up than you guys, and you're not involved in any of this. But when they were going to determine who was going to be studied or which plant was going to be studied for this closure, did you guys have any input in the Newcastle plant being part of that? The Erie plant being part of that? Did you? I bet you did, didn't you? You know you did, yeah. And everybody here saying, oh, these guys aren't involved in any of this. You started it. You gave Newcastle as, here, let's get this plant. We don't like Newcastle. Let's close them. Isn't that correct?
That is not
yes,
true.
Yes, it is correct.
No, it's
you
not.
You did have the input of putting our name on a list.
No, I did not.
A liar.
Anybody else?
I'd like to add one last thing. My whole problem with this whole process, starting back in April, was that I didn't feel in my gut that it was in good faith whatsoever, and there was a dog and pony show. And that the plan itself didn't make any sense, as was expressed by everybody here. And I saw a slide up there where you projected declining mail volume through 2020 as part of your basis for possible closure of the facilities at hand. I don't believe that you didn't know in 2009 that we would be here in 2011. And it was just as it was described to me by those on the inside, that taking the outgoing mail was a first step.
We did not know in 2009 that we would be back now. We had no idea.
You can't say, there's no way. It's not feasible, sir.
We had no idea in 2009 that we would be back here tonight discussing.
Did some unforeseen event happen between 09 and 11 that you didn't take into account?
Yes, sir. We lost another 23% per year in the mail volume.
And that wasn't projected at all in 09. That was
sir, it was
a complete
not.
Surprise.
It wasn't a complete surprise, but that depth of loss of revenue and volume was not projected then. No, sir.
Okay. Well,
that's reality now.
I guess then we'd have to call into question everything we were showing here tonight, because what good is it? If they were so wrong in 09, look at where we're going today. How can you count on anything you saw tonight?
I'd like to thank everyone for coming, and please send your comments in to the last address that was on the last slide that was on the screen. Thank you.